Lorwyn-Shadowmoor is a fae realm that exists inside of Magic the Gathering and now inside of Dungeons and Dragons. Lorwyn Forced Light brings us into this realm of opposing lands. Lorwyn Forced Light is a new book that Dungeons and Dragons published on D&D Beyond. So Lorwyn is a colorful and beautiful land full of forest and hills. There's an eternal state of sunlight, so it's always daytime in Lorwyn. This is the stereotypical Fae realm. Cozy villages are inhabited by whimsical, playful, and optimistic denizens. They might have bright tinted hair or vibrant eyes, and they probably prefer colorful clothes. So like really bright blues and reds and oranges and stuff like that. On the opposite end, Shadowmoor is foggy, with jagged cliffs, bogs, and eerie forest. This realm is plagued with eternal night. It is always nighttime in Shadowmoor. You don't even see the moon most of the time, from what I can tell. It is chaotic and full of wild magic. There is something here where you can have like pockets of wild magic throughout Shadowmoor that will influence the players, and I think that's really fun. The land is constantly shifting, so no map is accurate in Shadowmoor for very long. The inhabitants are a little bit more gloomy than their counterparts. They're often suspicious of others, their hair is often black, silver, or white, and their clothing is often black, dark blue, or purple. The wilderness is full of frightful creatures, and Shadowmoor is very similar to like the Shadowfell, from what I can tell. Between the realms, there are places called Eclipsed Realms. So these are cloaked in iridescent, colorful fog. Travelers take on aspects of both Shadowmoor and Lorwyn while they're in this eclipsed realm. Nothing lives here, and staying for too long can petrify somebody and turn you into what's pretty much a statue. The borders between these lands can shift. Sometimes this is slow, and sometimes this is sudden. Boundary shifts change the appearance of the land and the creatures that inhabit it. Individuals from other realms won't change, but others will. They will retain dim, distorted memories of their past. The Shadowmoor and Lorwyn aspects of a person are often opposite reflections of each other. So they might look similar, but things are going to be opposite. Colorful hair might be replaced with black hair. Colorful clothes might be replaced with gray clothes. Maybe the ears get pointier, stuff like that. There are talismans in this book that can prevent this shift. So if you have certain talismans, you can stay in your original aspect. And this is mostly used in this book by enemies. Some lore is given about the fall of a queen and the clashing of the realms leading to a momentary peace. I don't want to go too deep into that, but it is an interesting read, especially if you're like interested in this realm or you're a Magic the Gathering fan. I think it could be more interesting that way. This book has two new backgrounds, the Lorwyn expert and the Shadowmoor expert. They're both solid, and they have good feats and proficiencies associated with them. There are also two new feats in this book. They're very specific to the setting, like the backgrounds are. This would be great if you're using this setting, like the book intends you to do. And they're both good feats. I do like when a feat can be used in a different setting, though, so I was a little upset about this. But, I mean, overall, I think I could tweak it if I wanted to use it in a different setting. You just have to take out some specific names and stuff like that. The book also outlines how to adapt existing creatures into the flavor of Lorwyn-Shadowmoor. By creatures, I'm going to talk specifically about like species for a moment. The species are the Boggart, the Elf, Fairy, Flamekin, and Kithkin. For the most part, this is just an exercise of reskinning, which I often suggest to do for like monster stat blocks. There are some differences between the Lorwyn and the Shadowmoor versions of each of these species, and I do kind of like that flavor. So like the Shadowmoor versions all get dark vision. The Lorwyn versions might get different cantrips and stuff. My favorite part of this is that the elf options each come with different cantrips and spells that you would learn as an elf from these lands. So, I think the Lorwyn elf can get Druidcraft and stuff like that. There are two new species introduced in this book. The Lorwyn-Changelings are charismatic shapeshifters. Unlike other shapeshifters, they don't fully disguise themselves as a creature or plant like the book says they do. They keep their own traits. So the blue-green skin, tentacle-like fur, and yellow eyes with slitted pupils will remain no matter what they change into. They are fey for the creature type, which I love when a creature type is fey, because that means Horde Person can't be cast on you. Horde Person shouldn't be much of a concern, but after playing Baldur's Gate 3, I don't think I want to deal with Horde Person. It is such a pain. And you can choose to be a small or a medium creature. So you get a little bit of flexibility with your creature size. No matter what, your speed is 30 feet, which is also nice because I know at least in the earlier edition of 5e, a lot of the small races just get a -5 to the movement speed. The Rhymekin are from both Lorwyn and Shadowmoor. Unlike the Flamekin, the flames burn blue, and they deal cold damage rather than fire damage. At level 5, you can learn Flameblade, but it's going to deal that cold damage instead of the fire damage. So I like that little flavor. I enjoy having a spell that I can just change the damage type. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's something that hasn't been done much in D&D from what I can tell, in like the official stuff. So that's exciting. There is a chapter of key locations your party might go to. There are named NPCs included, what places are called in the opposite land, and some reasons your party might be visiting somewhere. There's also a section that names locations you might visit that aren't talked about in as much detail. These get a few sentences each and are not given reasons to visit. I do like the idea of getting reasons to visit somewhere because it can help just build a quest, like a side quest that the characters can go on to. Or you could probably tie it into a backstory somehow, if your characters have a backstory that is directly tied to Lorwyn and Shadowmoor. Because I think you could run this adventure, this like module. I guess not adventure, because there's only 2 one-shots. You could run this as a party of people that got transported here somehow. Similar to how the party gets transported in Curse of Strahd and in Wild Beyond the Witchlight, so it wouldn't be like a new thing. The next chapter talks about monsters from this realm. So this starts by talking about reskinning creatures with 3 examples: the fairies, scarecrows, and tree folk. You're then introduced to 8 new monster stat blocks. This includes some new giant stat blocks, which I do love a giant, and I feel like it's not that we don't have enough giants, I just like seeing new ones introduced. Give a little bit more flavor to the giants instead of just like the hill giant, fire giant, and other ones. Stone giant, cloud giant, I don't know. There's a lot of giants, but I do like seeing new giants introduced. There are incarnations of nature that embody different ideas. So this is really cool. I really do like this like incarnation of nature thing. There's an example for Lorwyn and for Shadowmoor, and then it talks about what they look like if they're in the other realm, which I think is pretty sick. The Miro are fish people. There are also Noggles, which are bipedal donkey-like creatures that like mess stuff up. They ramsackle things. I don't know if that's the right word for that. Ramsack? They ramsack stuff. And these are fey creatures, so I think that's pretty cool. The Noggles are fey. Unlike other stat blocks, the Noggle is only found in Shadowmoor. So these other stat blocks, there's a couple of options for where you might be able to find them. There are 2 adventures that take place in Aegith, which is a community center in Lorwyn. There's a map in this chapter before the adventures begin so that you can figure out the layout and different hallways and rooms and stuff that the players might need to travel through. There's a level 1 adventure that has the players protecting an expo from an inventor looking to sabotage the competition. Level 1 adventures can be tough, and I think they did a solid job here. They can be tough because level 1 PCs are not very strong. So making a good level 1 one-shot can be very difficult to do sometimes. There is a level 5 adventure where the party is hired to protect someone during a banquet. So this one could be fun with a good group. Staying with the NPC during the banquet is pretty important here, and failing to do so has some dire consequences. There's also an option here to avoid combat, which I like when D&D does that, when it gives like a way that they can think to avoid combat. I'm sure your PCs can figure out other ways to avoid combat because characters have really good imaginations most of the time. Player characters have really good imagination. Overall, I don't love this book, but I don't hate it. So the book would probably be great for a Magic the Gathering fan. For someone who is specifically already familiar with Lorwyn-Shadowmoor. I went into this book expecting it to be more fey and more whimsical, and there definitely is some, but not to the degree I expected. With that, I do love the idea of Lorwyn-Shadowmoor. I think it's fun to have them connected, and for the borders to change every so often. It would be fun to have an NPC with the party, or at least one party member, to be native to this land so that you could see them shift with the crossing borders. I think that would be pretty sick. And it would be fun for a player to not have like as many memories and stuff of what has happened in the past because they've crossed a border or the border has gone into where they were living. I do think there are some cool ideas I could take from this. I like the idea of the Feywild shifting to a dull realm sometimes. Maybe there's small pockets where it merges with the Shadowfell. I think that would be pretty sick. I also like some of the stuff with the species and the monsters, but I don't know if I would use anything one for one. I would probably reskin or change some abilities or stuff like that. Maybe I would use the Noggle because I just really like the Noggle. I think that's pretty sick. I also love that there's a lot of ways in this book listed to reskin species and monsters. This is something that a lot of DMs do, but I don't know if I've seen it recommended this way in a book because it pretty much tells you, like, hey, if you want to play this species from this realm, from this like setting that Magic the Gathering has made, you can just reskin like a goblin. And I really like that. This book does do a good job of sticking to its themes. If you're a fan of this setting for Magic the Gathering, I would definitely recommend getting it. If you're interested in the setting or the creatures and have the money to spare, I think it's a good thing to pick up. It's not a very expensive book. It's like $15 for the digital book. It could be worse. Regular books are way more expensive from Wizards of the Coast. But otherwise, I think I would personally pass on this one. If I could go back, I probably wouldn't have bought this book. I don't hate it. And like I said, I really like the theme of Lorwyn-Shadowmoor. And I think it's a pretty cool setting to use. And I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to using it in like a one shot or something, or a small campaign, because a one shot it might be kind of hard to explain like what's going on. But maybe like a 5-session campaign wouldn't be too bad. Maybe 10 or something. Just a shorter campaign. But if you guys have gotten this book, let me know in the comments what you think about it. If you think I'm just wrong, let me know in the comments. That's fine. If you're a fan of Magic the Gathering, I would love to know how well this was adapted into D&D, because I'm sure that they like did a decent job because they own Magic the Gathering. But I'm curious if there's anything that you think they messed up when they were adapting the book. And otherwise, guys, I hope you did enjoy this video. And until next time, peace.